pictures and patterns put into words. It's streamed across the page, capturing life as soft-spoken.
Hey guys, today we are going to talk about Bloody Jack. I did mention this in my recently read video, so if you want a spoiler-free review, you might want to just hop over and look at that, because we are just gonna do spoilers. Just from the start, we're gonna do the spoilers. So if you're interested in this book and have not read it and would be bothered by spoilers, maybe don't watch this video yet. Alright guys, we're getting into it. Bloody Jack. This book is about a little girl named Mary who decides to become a cabin boy on a king's ship around, I think they said like 1700s, maybe 1800s. Mary, in the start, her whole family dies from the plague. And she is, I think, like 8. She's not like a baby, but she's very young to be taking care of herself. One of the skills she has picked up is she can read, which has made her very useful when she joins a little gang of street urchins. They read signs for people and they pay them, and they do this other things to get by so they don't starve. So she is briefly a part of this group of kids who are trying to survive. They're all orphaned in one way or another, and they are not doing an amazing job. Some of these children freeze to death. They're all hungry. The one is murdered, I think. And there's this guy who brings bodies to the doctor to dissect, basically. And he's always eager to take the little kid, or threatening the kids that he's going to take their bodies next to the doctors for the dissection. So she's living in a really rough time. And she decides, after the friend is murdered, after the boy who was leading the gang is murdered, she decides she is done. She doesn't want to do this anymore, and she's tired of being starving all the time. So she takes the little boy's clothes and dresses up as a boy and goes to apply to be a cabin boy, which I guess they just go to where the ships are, and they talk about, like, I wouldn't call it an audition exactly, but they're like yelling out the skills that they have, and she can read. And so they bring her on board, and she says her name is Jack and that she is a 10-year-old boy per what she says. By the time she is on the ship, she says she's about 12, which is important as we continue. So Mary's on the ship, and she is on the ship as Jack, and she is learning how to do the ship thing. She's making friends with the boys. At one point even swimming shirtless with them, because apparently at 12 she has nothing up here, which I had some issues with. We'll continue. They at some point attack a pirate ship, and she kills somebody, and so gets the name of Bloody Jack, even though she has a lot of like mental remorse and sadness about killing him. She had to kill him to save somebody else in the ship. And a big part of the front of the book is just her learning to be on the ship, her making friends with the boys, and her, you know, kind of being like, I'm not starving anymore, this is kind of great. And just, there's a guy on the ship that's kind of creepy, and she doesn't like him, but overall, it's kind of just an interesting exploration of the time period, and of what we'll do when we have to. So I had a really, really good time at the beginning of this book. Really loved the beginning of the book. Then a little time passes, and Mary starts to become a woman. And I had so many issues with all of that stuff. This book was written by a man who has 2 sons, and I really didn't buy, I didn't buy the beginning where she is 12 years old and able to run around topless with boys. I get that girls hit puberty younger, or younger now than they did, and they were older back then when they, in the 1700s, when they had puberty, because not as much hormones in their food, and also that she is starving, so she's, maybe she really didn't have anything up top. But I have 10-year-old daughters, and like, they could not be shirtless in front of little boys. So I don't know that Mary really, I don't know that that is reasonable. But certainly Mary gets her period and doesn't know what's happening. And of course she doesn't tell anybody because she's like, she can't without revealing that she's a girl. So she just assumes she's gonna die. But here's my other issue. She doesn't know how to take care of the blood or anything else. So how is nobody noticing this girl who, she's got to smell, right? I mean, I guess they're on a ship and everybody smells. But I mean, she's wearing, she doesn't have like pads or tampons, and you know, she doesn't really mention what she's doing about the blood. And it's not like they have a ton of clothes. Like, I had a really hard time being like, this girl who doesn't know what's happening to her, has no clue what to do about it, manages to hide it and not stink, and she, it's fine. And there's a tiny explanation given. She put like extra, she sewed her own pants, and she put extra fabric in the front so that it would look like she had a penis, just her own codpiece in the front of her pants. So she likes to sew, by the way. And then at one point, I guess I did forget about this at the beginning. She's making, once she's on the ship, they like the clothes she's made so much, they make her make it for the other boys, and the boys get kind of irritated because they're like, we don't want to wear these. But anyway, so Mary becomes a woman, and she does finally, at one of their port calls, go off to a brothel and talk to a prostitute and be like, hey, this stuff's happening. I don't know how to be a girl. I've, you know, been around all boys. What do I do? And the prostitute's like, here's how we handle our periods. So that, I didn't hate that part of it. I had some disbelief, but I didn't necessarily have true issues with that stuff. Just more like, yeah, maybe not. But then, now that Jack is a woman, everybody is attracted to Jack. And this is causing all kinds of problems on the ship. Because basically none of the boys want to talk to him, and he doesn't understand why. Or she doesn't understand why none of the boys want to talk to her, because, you know, they think he's a boy. And the problem is they're all just like, I am probably gay because Jack looks really good over there. And I think that's probably a fairly problematic trope. But I was kind of like, yeah. But again, it's interesting because she has a crush on one of the little boys and they're best friends, and she's like, I don't understand why he won't talk to me. And why, like, originally they're supposed to be sleeping in a hammock together, and they decide that he won't, they're doing all this fighting, and they have to sleep together, and she's obviously like, I don't want him to realize I'm a girl, and just all the stuff. So at some point too, she decides that she is not going to sleep with him anymore, because in the hammock with him, obviously nothing sexual. She's not going to sleep in the hammock with him anymore because it's uncomfortable. They're fighting, and she is very soon at the next port going to get off the ship and go do her own thing because nobody likes her anymore. Well, it is not safe for little boys to be alone on the ship. And one of the sailors decides to assault her. Believing it is a him, by the way. And that is an interesting scene. Like, up until that point, I had kind of thought this was a young adult book, because it's kind of got, like, I don't know, to me, when I picked it up, it looked middle grade, and it was actually young adult. But when I picked it up, I'd originally thought we were having, like, a cool pirate story, a young or a middle grade pirate story. It is a young adult. So, anyway, there is a assault scene. It is not too detailed because the sailor does not actually manage to get very far in the assault before Mary kills him. But I just want to point out that he does, you know, get her clothing to the point that he can see what is down there, and is like, oh, I came after a rooster. Hens are even better. And I was just like, oh God. And also wondering why this guy is still on the ship and that nobody else is having a problem. Anyway, at the end of the day, she kills the guy and ends up having to kind of go back to where the boys are so that she is safe, and actually them finding out what happened and the guy attacking her, it turns a new leaf with the boys to a point. They still are very uncomfortable because they're attracted to Mary, who they think is Jack, but, you know, it's really not safe for her to be elsewhere. I don't remember exactly what happened next, but at some point, the little boy that she has a crush on realizes that she is, in fact, a little girl. And so then, for a good portion of the book, they're trying to have a relationship and hide their relationship, and he's all romantic. I'm gonna take you off this boat. We're gonna have this beautiful life together. And she's like, I don't really believe you, and you're gonna screw up your life if you try. Plus, you know, what kind of girl am I anyway? I've got a tattoo, because her and the little boys all got tattoos together. And, like, who tattoos 12-year-olds? Who they think are 10. She's supposed to be a 10-year-old boy, and they went and got tattoos, but whatever. Sure. And that probably was the case back then, and that probably happened a lot more than I'm giving them credit for. It just seemed like such a really strange thing. Again, time appropriate. A lot of the stuff in this book is probably time appropriate. So, around when they got together is kind of when I started having less fun with the book. I really loved the beginning of the book. Up until basically when her, and I think his name is Jamie, get together. I don't know that it's Jamie. I should probably look at that. Because I feel, yep, it is Jamie. I was like, wait a second, am I thinking of the right book? It is. So, like, but I didn't hate it once they got together. Like, I felt like we kind of changed what book we were in and the telling of the story. And I was like, I don't like this as much, but it's not bad. So they're hiding their relationship, they're having a relationship, and the focus of the book goes from being a sailor, the times, the setting, to very much Jamie and Jack, or Jamie and Mary. And I don't know what I expected to happen to end the book, or how the book could have ended appropriately. But once we get to about the 3/4 mark, there's a quarter of the book left, everything kind of gets, in my opinion, stupid. I didn't like how it ended at all. So basically what happens from there is Jack, their boat goes after a pirate, because that's what they do. Their kingship, they go after pirates. And their ship is seriously damaged to the point that they have to land on this little island to avoid sinking. And there's not a lot of ways to repair the boat, but they're trying to repair the boat on this island. And they need to get to a different island or figure out exactly where they are. So they decide, since Jack is the smallest, which I don't know. I mean, I guess she probably is, but it just seems to me like she's a 12-year-old girl. She's not that small, probably. And there are other boys who, I mean, they're all orphan starving children. I feel like nobody is like fat. So they decide to send her up on a kite. And I don't even know how the physics of this would work, but they strap her to a complex kite thing and send her up in the air, and she gets taken by the wind and passes out at some point, she tells us, and ends up on another island. And then it becomes kind of an adventure story for a few chapters, and I really kind of skimmed those because I was really bored because nothing interesting is happening other than her being like, here's how I'm not dying of starvation. Here's how I'm. So it kind of became an adventure story at that point. Then really quickly, the pirate that they were fighting earlier, kidnaps her, and I think they try to ransom her back. I don't remember. Her crew rescues her, and in the rescuing, figure out that she's a girl. And then the book ends with them being like, you have to go to finishing school or to boarding school. You can't stay aboard the ship. You can't be with Jamie. We're going to send you to a girls' school with the money you earned. You don't want to go, and you certainly don't want to use your money to do this. But we're going to use the money you earned as a cabin boy to send you to a girls, like a preparatory school for girls. And that's how the book ends. And like up until the last fourth, we were still at a 4-star. I was still having a good time. I had issues, but they were like 4-star book issues. We fell to a 3-star really quickly, and had I not loved the rest of the book so much, we could have easily dropped to a 2-star. And had it been just a little bit worse. It was bad. But if it was much worse, we'd have been at a 2-star. We'd have gone from a 4-star to a 2-star. We're in the middle, nice little 3-star. But I had so many feelings about this book. And like, if you are new to my channel, I don't normally tell you the whole plot of a book. I don't normally walk you through everything when I say I'm new in spoilers. But for this book, I just felt like I needed to, because it felt like the book didn't know what it was doing. It felt like, okay, we're going to do a historical commentary. Then we're going to do a love story. Then we're going to do an adventure story. And I'm just like, it felt off. And the last quarter of the book's pacing was everywhere. And I really wanted to like this because I liked it so much in the beginning. Really loved the first probably half of the book. And then the next like quarter section I liked. Didn't love, but liked. And then the last quarter I hated. And I just, oh my goodness. So those are my thoughts about this book. I ended up giving it 3 stars, and I had obviously a lot of feelings about it. So there are, I think when I looked at on Goodreads, 2 sequels to this. If you have read them, please give me an idea based on the information I have given you here about whether I would like to read the sequels. Are they more adventure story? Are they more romance? Are they all over the place? The things I loved about this were I loved the historical context. I liked the character Mary. I liked learning about the ship. It was fun and it was character driven, but it still felt educational fun. The romance was okay. I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it. But then all that adventure stuff at the end, I hated. So, based on that, should I bother reading the other books in the series? Have you read this book or this series? What did you think? I would love to hear more about if other people were kind of where I was with it, or if you loved it. Maybe this really was a book you enjoyed, and that's totally fine. If you did, tell me what it was that really got you about this book. What did you love? Also, if you read it as a woman, did you also feel like some of the stuff about being a girl was wrong? Do you also feel like the author tried his best but just didn't quite cut it right in the girl stuff? Or did you feel like maybe he was very historically accurate and I am very much basing my being a female on my life as a female and my having daughters, and but being living in 2022 instead of the 1700s. So I would love to hear just all around opinions on this book if you've read it. If you can recommend other books, I love the first bit of this. Is there a book similar to this that maybe doesn't end so what I consider poorly? Maybe I would appreciate the ending of more. I don't even mind the love story in there. It doesn't have to have it, but like that, I didn't hate that. I didn't love it as much as the other stuff, but I didn't hate that, and I read a lot of romances. So if you have other books to recommend based on what I liked and didn't like about this book, I'm also interested in that. Alright guys, this has been Jane. I will see you next time. Bye.